Okay, now we're just plugging everything back in and connecting all our parts. Not exactly the easiest process to film because there's hardly enough room for you to see what you're working on. But notice that there are a couple brackets that are slightly different on the Cavalier versus the Grand Am that this came out of. Oh, every once in a while we gotta swap that stuff over. Okay, we got all the electrical hooked up on this, but before we go any further, I want to do a compression check on this. And we've got some oil in the pan now. This compression gauge isn't quite going all the way to 0, so I don't know how accurate this actually is. Luckily I happen to have another gauge here, so let's try this one. Okay. Keep going. That's 190. That's 135. That's 220. It gets up to 120. Okay, we got this thing all connected back together except for the exhaust and the front suspension. But before we set it or put it back up, we're going to replace all of these spark plugs. And these are OEM type, and I set the spark gap to, what was it, 42 thousandths, and they are torqued to 132 inch-pounds. Okay, here's our new spacer against the old one. And this is a new bolt. They didn't have the right size length, so I cut this one down to the same length that it used to be. We're calling this a cross member in the book, and we torqued to 81 foot-pounds and then another 90-degree turn. Okay, this stabilizer link right here, I don't know what it's called and I can't find it in the book, so I'm torquing it to the same values that it had me do the control arm. Okay, this is our first attempt at starting it. I've filled the reservoir, but it needs to circulate it, and so I can put the rest of it in. Okay. We haven't put the muffler on yet. We just wanted to make sure it was actually going to start before we put the pipes together, because they don't like to come apart when you clamp them. They go through all the gears in the transmission. It gets a fluid to circulate in there so we can put more in. Okay, well, we just took this car out for a little test drive, and well, after we replaced the map sensor, and this is the one that was originally on the newer engine, it's down in there, right there. And the one that was on the new engine was broke off, and it was just sitting there. And it just looked like it was okay, so I didn't notice it until we read the codes, and it told us that was a problem. But that's why it was running so rough. Now anyway, we got that swapped over, and it's running really good now. Last thing we're gonna do before Mitch, the actual owner of the car, takes it back to use it as a daily driver, we're gonna do one of these kits for buffing up the headlights. And this is the 3M kit. Should work out pretty good. I'll put the handle on here for a little more stability. Taped around the edges. And it looks like someone tried to polish this out here before. You can see it right here and on the other one. But we're just gonna get this all sanded down even and move on to the next grit. We're going to leave this one untouched until we get this one completely finished. That way there we can tell, you know, how we can better ourselves if that one doesn't come out quite as satisfactory. Because this one also is, it's broke. So that one's not perfect. Oh well, we'll replace it. Okay, we've just finished our pass with the 800. And now we're going to do this, I guess it's a cutting compound impregnated pad. And it's already damp. Here you go, Mitch, you can do that. I'll hold the light. Now this is gonna go for a while until we start to see kind of like a slurry. And then it's 4 to 6 passes after we start seeing the slurry. After we're done with the cutting compound impregnated cloth, or foam, we put a dime size amount on our polishing pad. And I know from experience it's better to kind of load this up like this all over the pad without just slinging it all over the place. We're going nice and slow. Alright. Alright, here we can see before and after. And this is, you know, it's not perfect. It's still got some of the real deep kind of UV damage stuff in it, but it's a whole heck of a lot better. Can't even really see there's a light bulb in there. Done.